Hello there folks, my name is Spunks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Bros, opening with $4.8 million this weekend domestically, and that total stays the same worldwide as it has yet to be released in any international countries. So, yeah, this is very, very bad. Last weekend, I did say that this movie was kind of a wild card, as there were many ways I could see it doing well and doing very poorly. This is even worse than how I was expecting it, if I'm being honest with you. Because I thought, maybe with the good reviews and the prominent marketing campaign, I thought maybe, that would pique people's interests a bit, and given the fact that it was kind of a big deal for LGBTQ representation, I thought that would encourage others to go check it out, but clearly that wasn't the case. It just didn't seem like many people were all that interested in seeing this movie, sadly. And the movie just didn't look appealing to a lot of people. I did hear and read a couple of rumors spreading around, and even some stories confirmed from actual people who have worked at various movie theaters that when the trailer for this movie came on during something like Elvis, they had numerous complaints and people leaving the theater upset that the trailer was playing during the movie. I'm not saying that that's the main reason why, but I do think that's one of the factors as to why the movie also underperformed. But yeah, not only does this mean that this movie is a pretty big flop, as the movie costed $22 million, so it's going to really need all the help it can get to even surpassing that total. But it was also it also had a lower opening weekend than Easter Sunday. Remember that movie? And remember how wonderful that movie did? Yeah. However, if there is any silver lining here, any bright light at the end of the tunnel, it is the fact that unlike Easter Sunday, people actually like this movie, including audiences, as it did receive an A on CinemaScore, so hopefully word of mouth will prevail. Maybe it'll encourage others to go check it out. Maybe it can get it to that, at least the budget, to say the least. But once again, it's really, really going to need a lot of positive word of mouth and encouragement to get people to see this movie in theaters, because while we are still awaiting a lot of big tentpole movies, they are slowly but surely on the horizon, and I think this movie is sadly going to be one of the movies that gets overshadowed by the competition. So yeah, this is overall a pretty bad opening weekend for Bros. We'll see how word of mouth helps it out in the long run, but I'm not expecting to see this movie remain in the top 5 for much longer, which is sad, but hey, what are you going to do? Number 4 was the re-release of Avatar, making $5 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $779 million and a worldwide total of $2.9 billion. So this was a pretty solid weekend for the re-release of Avatar. As many of you probably remember from last week's episode, I wasn't expecting too much for this. I thought it was going to plummet out of the top 5 like the re-release of Spider-Man No Way Home and fade into obscurity. But that was not the case. It held pretty well, for a re-release. It dipped 52%, which is, again, not bad, and shows signs that Avatar, The Way of Water, is still one of the most anticipated movies of the year, and audiences are more than eager to go get a refresher on the first Avatar. And what helped this movie out even more is that because of this weekend, it was able to become the first movie in history to surpass $2.9 billion, and it remains the highest grossing film of all time, unless if Avengers Endgame gets a re-release and that pushes that over. But regardless, this is a pretty impressive weekend for the re-release, but I really also don't have anything to say about this, as this is just the re-release of Avatar. The original Avatar already made all the money it needed to. This is just basically extra change. It served its purpose just to refresh people's memories on the first one, to get them excited for the second one. And it did a lot better than I was expecting it to. And just good job, re-release of Avatar. You were able to stick around in the top 5 for one more week. Number 3 was The Woman King, making $6.82 million, adding to a domestic total of $46 million and a worldwide total of $50 million. So while in spite of what the Sunday estimates said, where they said that the movie would be the second highest grossing movie of the weekend, where it actually turned out to be the third highest grossing film of the weekend, this movie is still doing very well. This weekend helped push it even closer to surpassing the $50 million milestone domestically, which is the film's reported budget, and worldwide it has already been able to do so. So it has already surpassed that milestone and that bump in the road already. It just needs to double that. Really, the only thing that is preventing it from doing so is the fact that it hasn't been released in a lot of international countries yet, as it's still holding well. Word of mouth is definitely strong with this movie. People are encouraging others to go see it. A lot of people are enjoying it, and once again encouraging others to see it. It really is that they haven't been able to release it internationally yet, but I do believe once it does get those international releases, it will definitely boost the totals to hopefully get it to the doubling point that it needs to, because the film has already become such a big sleeper hit that it would be a shame to see it not surpass that doubling point. But I think it will definitely be able to do so. Again, it just needs to be released in those international countries for sure, as right now it is still doing very well for itself. It was able to surpass its budget. All it needs to do is double that, and I think it's got a chance to do so. So not much more else to say here. Just good job, The Woman King. Another solid weekend. Number 2 was Don't Worry Darling, making $6.84 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $32 million and a worldwide total of $54 million. So while this movie was able to overtake the number 2 spot from The Woman King, it managed to have an even worse weekend than The Woman King, as the film dropped 65% from last weekend. It seems to be that the B- cinema score rating was a sign that bad things were on the horizon, as it seems that the opening weekend was very front-loaded. It was definitely spurred due to the controversy and probably Harry Styles fans even, but now that a lot of people have seen it, they are not encouraging others to do so, which is very unfortunate, because Warner Brothers really needed this movie to be a success. And while it still has a shot of being a success, again, the movie only costed $35 million. It's about to surpass that domestically, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it double that worldwide. I definitely think they needed this to be even more of a hit, be that breakout late fall blockbuster that no one saw coming, especially after how terrible things are going for them. But nope, it looks like Warner Brothers needs the help of Dwayne Johnson, but that's a story for another day. As far as Don't Worry Darling goes, this is definitely not a good weekend for the film. It once again very front loaded, word of mouth not doing any favors. We'll see how much longer it lasts in the top 5, but I don't think it's going to be for very much longer either. It could be for maybe a couple more weeks, but then after that it'll leave without a doubt. Once again, it's not a disaster. It's not a flop by any means. It's definitely has a shot at surpassing its budget domestically and even doubling it worldwide, but it's definitely not going to be the big hit Warner Brothers needs it to be. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Smile, opening with 22 million domestically and 36 million worldwide. So this was a fantastic start for Smile, as this was the 6th film for Paramount to open at number 1. In regards to horror films released post-theater closure era, it is the 7th highest grossing opening for a horror film, behind The Black Phone, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, Scream 5, Nope, Quiet Place Part 2, and Halloween Kills. And it's already a box office success thanks to its cheap budget of $17 million. It has already surpassed that domestically and doubled that worldwide. So yeah, not too surprising here that the film was able to open at number 1, but it was really surprising to see how much it made throughout the course of the weekend, as many people were saying around 18, maybe at the highest I saw was $19 million, but it was able to become the first film since Dragon Ball, believe it or not, to have a movie open at number 1 with over $20 million, which is great. And I also believe that there were a lot of factors that helped this movie out. Reviews were solid. The marketing was fantastic. They went all out with the marketing campaign, and it is the start of Spooky Month, and many people wanted to start off the month with a brand new horror film, and what did you know it? There was a new horror movie in theaters, and people went to see it. It did receive a B- on Cinema Score, which for any other movie would be a cause for concern, but since this is a horror movie, you kind of gotta grade it on a different scale, as people tend to view horror films a lot more differently than the average feature film. So this could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like this is definitely not gonna really affect the film's performance at all, as once again we are in Spooky Month, and I think this movie's gonna really hold well, and word of mouth is gonna help it out a lot. And even if it really doesn't, it has already doubled its budget, and it's already a massive hit for the studio. So it really doesn't matter, as once again the movie's doubled its budget. Anything else it makes in the coming weeks is spare change, if I'm being honest. But yeah, overall, this was a very solid weekend for Smile. Very satisfied to see that this movie was able to be as big of a hit as it was. Paramount definitely did the right thing with not dumping this onto Paramount Plus and listening to the test screening reactions and releasing it into theaters. Very smart decision. I think they're going to do that a lot more in the future. We're definitely going to see a lot more headlines about certain movies in that regard. But yeah, once again, Smile is off to a very solid start. Looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we have 2 new wide releases, the first being Amsterdam. Boy oh boy, do we have the problematic feature film this week, folks. Trust me, the man who directed this movie has done some very bad things. Look into that if you're curious. But I'll just say he's done some very bad things to his niece. We'll just leave it at that. But as far as how I think this movie's going to do box office wise, I'm not expecting much. While I do feel that the marketing has been better than most of the recent films coming out from 20th Century Fox this year, and honestly I think the marketing has been on par with Death on the Nile, The problem is that the marketing has been on par with Death on the Nile, meaning I've seen promos here and there, but not to the point where I say it's being promoted all that well. And the buzz is also not very strong with this movie either. Not hearing too many people talk about how interested they are in seeing this movie. Again, the most I'm hearing about people talking about it is the problematic stuff involving the director. Again, look that up if you want to. And also, apparently, the movie is not very good, as critics do not like this movie. In fact, it's getting quite literally terrible reviews. So, while it might do better than some Fox films that came out in recent memory, it's not going to be enough to where I say this movie has a good shot of having a strong opening. Then the other new film is Lyle Crocodile. This is a new family film based off of the best-selling books of the same name, and while I don't think it's going to have as big of an opening weekend as other family films like Minions, Sonic, Lightyear, or even The Bad Guys, I gotta be honest, I think this movie is going to impress a lot of people. First off, it has been a while, and I cannot stress that enough, a while since the last family film hit theaters, which was DC League of Super Pets, which, to refresh your memories, came out in late July. And while that movie certainly had its legs, especially outside the top 5, it is definitely on its last legs, and I definitely think that a lot of families out there are eager to see something new hitting theaters, so I think it's going to benefit from that. The marketing has also been pretty solid. I've been seeing a lot of promotion for it all over the place, and while at the time of this recording, reviews are not officially out yet, I don't think it will really affect the film's performance, as many family films that are releasing in theaters seem to be very critic-proof. And while this isn't regards to its opening weekend, but in terms of its legs, I think this movie is also going to excel, as this will be the only family film playing in theaters until Strange World hits theaters on Thanksgiving weekend. So this movie has plenty of time to grow and be as successful as it needs to. So yeah, overall, I'm expecting some pretty positive things for Lyle Crocodile. Nothing groundbreaking, but certainly something that could capture a lot of people's attention. But we'll see how well this movie does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied? Unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.